Well, good Friday morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
For,
morning.
the, for those of you who don't look at those messages in the chat right away, who had a pair of the hammer pants? Frankie is in. Jen had the graffiti jeans. Love it. Love it. Anybody else? Hammer pants? Raise those hands. Who had a pair? KB, you got a story or are you just raising your hand? All right. Love it. Good stuff. Well, there's a little bit of a tie to that song, to the message that we're going to send you away with heading into the weekend. So, anybody here know what the Dunning-Kruger effect is? Dunning-Kruger effect. Anybody want to raise their hand on that one? So, in essence, it's basically a phenomenon that illustrates how people with limited knowledge or competence in a particular area tend to overestimate their abilities. And so here's kind of how they did the study. I think it's like in the late 90s, maybe like 99 or so, Cornell University. Evaluations were conducted in humor, logical reasoning, and English grammar. Participants completed tasks and then basically they estimated their performance. And their self-assessments were compared with their actual scores. And the results were those in the lowest quartile greatly overestimated their performance, believing they were above average. And so we see this in a lot of different aspects of life, where you get that kind of overestimation. And then conversely, it can happen the other way, which we refer to as the imposter syndrome, right? So highly skilled individuals might actually think that they're not as good at something, even though they might excel at that. So a lot of this just has to do with the lack of self-awareness. It's something that we really got to work hard on, that we're not, letting this effect take control of us, and that we are constantly battling against it. I just kind of Googled like some real life examples, and I thought this one stood out, which is driving. Novice drivers often overestimate their skills. You might take more risky behaviors behind the wheel when you don't realize, how much really goes in. So I think there's a bunch of different ways that this affects us in real estate. So a couple of the things that that I jotted down was newer agents feeling like, hey, maybe they know a little bit more than they actually do. I think we get into this business, and until you're 50, 100 deals deep, if you look back for those agents that have hit that, man, I didn't know anything on deals 0 through 5, but maybe, we see it. Agents do a few deals and I feel like they know everything. So it's a difficult balance of just constantly trying to train and educate yourself, which is what we're trying to do on this call. There's so much to know about this industry, and you guys sharing all those experiences just helps us to get there faster. We've tried every training method known to man. And I think this is the best one, which is like, just tell me what's going on in your deals so we can talk about them here and hopefully, be able to anticipate some scenarios that might happen on a future deal for us that hasn't happened to us. Client interactions, right? So you think it's possible that clients could overestimate their understanding of the market. Hey, are you aware of how difficult it is right now? It's tough to get your offer accepted. Yeah, we know, we read it. And then we write offers and they still don't go over ask. They still don't get super aggressive. So maybe a little bit more education up front, showing literally property by property, the last 12 sales in their top town that they want to buy in, and showing this one, 30,000, this one, 20,000. Sometimes I think we wait until they've got a bunch of deals that they underbid, they missed out on. Could we be a little bit more aggressive up front to really make sure that they do know the market? Because I think they're nodding, yep, we know. They don't know. We know that, right? They don't know. So I don't know. Those are a couple of things. Let's open it up. Let's see what you guys think, and how this might change how you go about your business. Who's got some thoughts? Talk to me about what somebody just want to share. What are they doing up front? New client. How deep are you going on how bad the market is and how difficult it is to get your offer accepted? And could we go deeper? Do you think it would help? Hey, here's what I figured out is the balance. Who wants to speak to it?
Steve, I haven't done that where I bring up the comps of solds in the areas. I think that's really a good idea to give them an idea of what to expect if they're going to put an offer in on a home in, those homes that sold 20, $30,000 over. I think
Yeah,
that
I
would
mean,
help them
give me.
understand what's going on.
I think so, but I'm not out there. You guys are out there. Who's doing it? Hey, here's why that doesn't work on the first, buyer's consult. Here's why I don't do it. What's the other side? How many people are doing it first meeting? We're talking about market conditions, and I'm actually, hey, they've told me the markets they want to look in. I'm pulling up the properties. Hey, that's awesome. You want to buy in, Enfield. Hey, here's the last 12 sales. Here's what happened. Here's the list price. Here's the sales price. Or are we just telling them? Let's just be honest. What's going on? I'm going to call on somebody if somebody doesn't speak up. What are we
I,
doing on that first one?
I actually tell them. I don't show them proof that that's what's going on. And I think moving forward, I will do that.
Good. And we'd love to, report back. Sue, what's the difference? Because I think they're saying, are most of your clients saying, yep, I know it's a difficult market?
Yes,
Yeah.
they are. And sometimes they're going, you know, looking at this house, I don't think that it's worth that amount of money. And I says, well, unfortunately, this is the way the market has been going. And it's about, what's the amount of homes that are out for sale and how many, there's so many more buyers on one home. And that's why the prices are being driven up.
KB, you had your hand up. Yep. What do you got?
Yeah, I think that there has to be a limit to how much overwhelming them with at the first meeting, right? I think it's important to make sure that you're educating them without really scaring them away. That being said, I think that, in the first meeting, you can ask those questions for sure and kind of explain, what's going on in the market. And kind of depending on what type of a client you have, the data is readily accessible, right? So you should be able to pull it on the spot if you need to. So that being said, I think that some of the things that would be helpful, again, I'm not out there right now either, but knowing how to show them what sales price to list price ratios look like, being able to show them average days on market, being able to show them inventory now as opposed to inventory a few years ago, like being able to pull that data kind of quickly, which all our MLSs can do pretty easily, is really important. But I've never been the kind of person that, every single client I ever worked with, I always did a buyer's consultation, and I would just kind of feel my way through it based on the person. I would ask them how familiar they are with what's going on in the market and kind of try to see where their head's at before I start throwing things down their throat that they don't necessarily need to hear, or they're already nervous and I don't want to overwhelm them too much at our first meeting.
Good. Who else wants to share how they do it? Go ahead, Molly.
Yeah, I mean, typically at a buyer's consult, I won't pull up the actual comps, but I will just let them know, like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's going to be difficult, and it's possible that you'll get your first offer accepted, but a lot of times it takes 6, 7, 8 or more offers to actually get accepted. And I think just saying it like that, like just being honest with them, The other component with this is just building their trust, because I've had clients where you can show them the comps, you can tell them your opinion of what it will go for and what offer they'll have to make, but they're still going to say, yeah, let's go under. Versus the clients that you can tell are listening to you and are going to take in what you're saying. They're like, well, what do you think we should offer it for? And those are my favorite kinds of clients, the ones who ask for the advice and actually listen to it. And I tell people those are the clients who I see are most successful too.
Good share. Kate.
Yeah, I've had a lot of success lately with listing agents who've been really specific about why our offers haven't been accepted. And so they've gone into a lot of detail about here's where your offer was in writing, here's why we didn't accept it. And I had obviously developed a good relationship with them and had said, I'm trying to help my clients understand the market better. We had a really detailed conversation with comps during the buyer's conference, but they needed to hear detail from the listing agent, and that has really helped.
Yeah, definitely a great strategy is getting that listing agent. This is after you've lost the deal, obviously, getting that listing agent to tell you how many, offers they had on the table. And, here's the points where your offer was weak, even if that's in a voice memo, a text message, an email, and then you can share that information with your client. Hey, we kind of talked about this in the buyer's consult. I told you it's going to be very competitive out there. We went through the comps, and that's what happened on this one. Right? They had an offer that was 30,000 over. The person waived the inspections. They had a $10,000 appraisal gap. We're going to need to do some of those things if you want to be competitive in this market. Otherwise, we can try some other markets. We can expand our search. We can go into a lower price point so you can be more aggressive, right? So now we're trying to change strategy based on how we did on our first attempt.
One of the things, though, they did bring up, which I wanted to bring up, was they didn't like the wording in our appraisal gap, the second part of that wording, which is very clear, which says if the appraisal gap is more than, and we had put in a $5,000 appraisal gap, then they can negotiate. And if they can't come to an agreement, the buyer will be able to cancel the transaction and get their deposit back. They felt that wording was harsh and it sort of scared them. So I wanted to raise that to see if there was another way to handle that.
The listing agent is saying that, Kate?
The listing agent said he was very specific about what the sellers didn't like about our offer. It was really, they loved the offer overall, but it was down to the fact that we did inspections for informational purposes only, and the winning offer waived inspections. And the second thing was we had an appraisal gap, which was a good thing, but the way we phrased it, which was right out of clauses to consider, seemed harsh to them.
Did he propose a different way to word it? I don't know how else you would word it.
No. And he said, obviously you're trying to protect your client, but that wording seemed harsh. And I've always used that wording. So
I don't know what other wording you can do, right? So we're saying, hey, we'll go to 5,000. So normally you could just say, hey, we'll go to 5,000. Other than that, the deal's dead. And I think what we've done is we've said, well, let's add a little bit more language in there to say, hey, we'll go to 5,000, and if it's more than that, instead of just killing the deal, maybe we'll negotiate. Right? Like I almost feel like it's less harsh than just having an appraisal gap with a number. So that's why I was curious what the proposed language would be, because I think this is actually in the seller's benefit to just say, well, we're not going to just kill it if it doesn't. Maybe we'll come up a little bit more.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's so. Nicole, did you have something to comment?
Just a question. I'm assuming this was a Connecticut agent you were working with, Kate?
Yes, it was.
Would they, I don't know if you asked, but would they have been more comfortable with the appraisal rider? Because there's an appraisal gap option on that in Connecticut.
Right. Yeah,
So maybe he's just more used to that. I mean, I think our wording is totally fair. We kind of pulled our clauses to consider wording off that rider anyway, but maybe he's just more used to that.
Yeah, it wasn't his concern, it was the client's. But yeah, I can go back to using that.
Yeah, so a couple of great topics coming up here. One, first thing is when an agent is telling you, well, it's my client, what that tells me is the agent isn't relaying the information properly, right? So it's a game of telephone, right? We can do it, and then it all depends on how does that agent present this language to that client. And if they can't explain it, now all of a sudden they might be worried, right? So that's the first part. And the second thing Nicole's bringing up is agents tend to get very comfortable with the forms that they're comfortable with, and so we do want to try whenever possible to use those local forms, even if we're more comfortable, with a different form. And so maybe you're a Connecticut agent that does a lot of Connecticut business, and if you try to use that Connecticut purchase and sale and make an offer on a mass, they're going to look at you like you got four heads. Right? It's crazy. It's one town over. So, just be cognizant of that stuff. Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, so the only thing I'm not hearing us talk about is, like, a lot of times clients come to us, they get a pre-approval, it goes up to, say, 300, and it takes them a little time to realize I can't spend 300. I have to be looking at houses that are 250, even if you've explained it to them, hey guys, we really should be looking at the 250 to 270 range, because that's what it's going to take to get us an offer, around 300. They just don't get it. Every house they send you is going to be 290 to 295. They're going to want to go look at them. They're going to want to make offers on them, and they're just not going to get them. And so that's the one thing that I didn't hear anyone say is, I think that at first people just don't get it. They just are like, oh, I can spend 300. So they're looking at houses that are 300, which makes sense if you're, if you could spend $50 at the grocery store, then you buy $50 worth of groceries, but it doesn't really work like that. And that's part of, us educating them, like, hey, listen, like, we really need to be looking at 270 or below, because we're going to need, I heard you kind of gloss by it when you said, sometimes we have to change our strategy and go lower, but I think that's just part of it. Like, you might have to lose 3 offers at 295 when you can go up to 300 to get them to realize, oh shit, we got to be looking at 270. And now they're like, oh, I can't find a house that I like now because it's just not, I really need to be able to do more. So then you got to have a conversation with the lender and see if you can put them in a better position, get them to go higher, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's Dunning-Kruger Effect to a T, right? They think they know. It's exactly that. They think they know the market. They think they know. We know. We're in it. We're the experts. And so now it's that balance of how do we educate them? And, I think Pat's right. Some of them we can educate to we're blue in the face. They're never going to get it. They just got to get the experience under their belt. But I did want to touch on one thing that he ended with. A lot of times, shopping the lender can help you to increase that pre-approval, right? It could get you from 300 to 320 on that pre-approval. And so now we keep looking in that 300 range, but we can go to the 320 now, and maybe we can get that offer accepted. So that's another little strategy is, hey, did the lender really push the limits? Is there any wiggle room with the current lender? Can we have you talk to another lender? Maybe you could run the numbers and it could end up a little bit different. It can work in reverse. If you're not using, a lender that's really, really good, they pre-approve them for 300. We get down to brass tacks, all the documents come in, and now they're pre-approved for 250. And this is where I just can't emphasize this one enough, that you guys can't be spending time with people that you don't know for sure what their purchase power is, So, KB, did you have something? We're not hearing you. Stu, you've got your hand up.
Yeah. I was working with a client, and that happened exactly. They were looking in a market at the top of their price range, and they put in offers, and I was telling them, it's going to go over, and you're at the top. Let's expand our search. And we did, and we're still not getting the accepted offers. And then we went further out and we found a home. They put an offer in. We did inspections. We're having the purchase and sale is being written up right now, and they're very happy with what they're buying. So it's
I
like you
love it,
said,
right?
expanding
We
your
don't have to, yeah, we don't have to stay in this market. In this market, it's going to take 320. I know they're listed in the 300s, but in this market, it's going to take 320. If we move 2 towns over, we can get the same house, right? It's going to be maybe a little bit longer commute, yada, yada, but we can win over here, right? So
right.
don't keep beating our heads. Um,
And
so
it's
just,
really disappointing to them when they're not getting the house. And, I would say to them, do you want to work for your house and not have any downtime and enjoy life? Not having the kids do sports. If we stay in this town, that's what's going to happen. And they're like, well, I can get another job. And I'm like, you know, I mean, that's tough on life if you're at your max and the next year the taxes are going to go up and your mortgage is going to go up. So they took that information from me and decided to go even further, but half-hour commute.
that's what we're looking to do, right? Is put the cards on the table for these people. What a great example, Sue, of how to, educate them about here's the reality. Yeah, you can afford that, but you're going to be tight. Everything's going up, right? So if your salary doesn't go up, it's going to be tight. So great job on that one. Just reading the comments a little bit. We talked earlier about pulling that MLS data. If you don't know how to do that, right, you should be able to, within minutes, pull list price to sales price for a market. KB just put in the notes that there is some videos. I'm assuming they're linked in Zendesk on how to do that for each MLS. But if you don't know, ask somebody for sure. It's easy, and it's just nice if you are right in a conversation, buyer's consult, you guys are talking market conditions, and you're kind of getting the feeling that they kind of have an idea on market, but like they're really not getting it, and you want to go and show them data. You got an analytic. And look, you might pull certain towns. We might find the last 12 deals haven't gone really significantly over ask. That's good information for you guys to know. So if you don't know how to pull that stuff, please ask, because I think if you're not using list price to sales price in a tough market, I think it's just going to take you a little bit longer. They're going to have to lose more deals. I think you might be able to speed up the process, and I think everybody wins when you do that, and you don't have the frustration out of a client, right? Because the risk that you do run if you continue to lose is they start to think it's you, and they start to think that they've got an agent that's capable of getting offers accepted. Right. And so you've got to balance that. If you're not going to really go hard and really explain the data, and you keep losing, they're going to find another agent. So any other thoughts? Healy's just mentioning in comments too, she's always got her iPad available, so if she has to pull this stuff up, she will. Hiram.
So a couple of important things, right? I think when you do have that information in hand and you're showing these people, your clients, these properties, and you're asking them for feedback, and you're asking them on a scale of 1 to 5, what's your opinion on this property based on what you've seen? 4 and 5 being that you're going to consider submitting an offer on this property, right? Having the data with you, though, now, if they are considering submitting an offer and you're getting a little bit of pushback, now you can show them the numbers and say, well, if you want to be competitive in this area, in this town, this is where you're going to have to come in. This is what's selling in these areas within a 1-mile radius. If you want to be competitive and even have your offer considered, this is where you're going to have to come in at, right? When you have the data. So I've been doing this with during my one-on-ones with agents. I went out with Andy and Abdullah yesterday. I had them show me a property. I was their buyer, and then I just gave them feedback. Showing up to these showings prepared is the biggest asset you can have, and it's the biggest value add that you can add to yourself as an agent, right? Working with these clients, because when you have that data up front and you give them that information, guess what? You make yourself look like the market expert, that you know what exactly what you're doing. You know what your market is doing. You know what the trends are, and it just makes you stand out. And now they're not going to second guess you.
Yeah, for most of these buyers, you've got one or two chances to make that first impression, and sometimes I think you just got one. That first showing becomes so important. I know we've spent a lot of time on this. Does anybody else have another strategy when you've got buyers that just seem to be off on their pricing or their aggressiveness? You feel like the why is there, right? We really didn't talk about that, but if they just keep going low and you don't know what their true why is, if you didn't ask the what's your plan B question during your buyer consult, that could be your problem too. You've just got a buyer that doesn't have a strong enough why. Their plan B is the living situation I got right now with no mortgage payment, living in my parents' basement is pretty darn good. It'd be nice to own a home, but I'm just a single guy. I got no payments, I got no bills, I got no nothing. I eat out of my mom's fridge. Like if the right one comes along, versus I can't stand my rental apartment. It's so noisy. And now they're trying to go up on my rent. I want to get the hell out of here. That's a different buyer. Who else? Anybody have a different question, different topic? You got a scenario that's going on pretty unique. It's a great share and a learning opportunity for the group. Hiram.
So presenting offers to my client on a listing, and I get a call from a buyer's agent who had an offer submitted, and I'm talking to her on the phone. I told my client, just excuse me 1 second, but she's talking so loud on the phone, he's listening to her. She's like, hey, where are we in the process? And listen, let me call you back in 5 minutes. I'm reviewing offers with my client right now as we speak. And she says, well, I need to know because I submitted another offer on another property, and it's it may be accepted as well. So with that being said, right, I caution everyone on this call, be careful. You shouldn't be submitting more than one offer for a client on different properties. I know that the market is competitive, but you can get yourself in a bind by doing that, because what happens if both offers are accepted, right? And if someone finds out, I mean, you shouldn't be doing it. It's unethical to do. You shouldn't. I know people are getting desperate. People are like, but you got to cover your assets when it comes to practicing real estate, right? We worked hard to get our license, and we got to stay true to ourselves to keep our license in good standing. So we got to be ethical.
Yeah, I think when this situation happens, I think the best way to handle it, there's a bunch of different ways, but I'm going to give you a couple of different scenarios. One is you go to the client, you say, hey, what's number one, right? Hey, we like this one better. We want to go after this one. We call that listing agent. We tell them where our offer is going to be. We see if there's a deadline. We see if we can get, an offer in or something accepted on that. We're having a similar conversation with the other listing agent on property B. Hey, when does this one, deadline going to be? Where are the offers? Can we get any kind of information on the offers? And then we're trying to put in on A and get a response on A prior to B being outside of their window where we could offer over there. If we can't get A to commit to us first, now the client's got to make a decision. Do we want to try and get A? Do we want to try and get B? And it can get a little sticky, but hopefully you can get their number one to give you some sort of a response, or even like, look, you guys aren't even in the ballpark on A, right? Your offer's 300. He's like, we're already in the 320s, and your client's not going to 320. So anybody else want to just chime in? Hey, I've got, here's what I did. I had a buyer looking at 2 properties, same time. They want an offer on both. Any other strategies there? Always found that to be a pretty good one. Jen, what do you got?
I also tell my buyers, because I've had some ask about doing that. You could put yourself in a predicament where you're putting an offer in on two different properties. One gets accepted, you're sending your earnest money. Now the other one gets accepted and you don't have your earnest money. So now you're going to just withdraw from that one. And how are you going to give your earnest money to the second one? I just tell them it's not good, it's not ethical, and they end up agreeing. But I do think that happened to one of, I was selling a property and I feel like the buyer did that because all of a sudden they just wanted to walk away, cold feet, no reasons. And that's when am I getting my earnest money? Like they were so about getting it right away. So I feel like that might have been a situation that happened.
100% agents are doing this. 100%. They're submitting offers on two properties and going, "Oh, we'll just back out.
Right.
We'll just back out of that one. We'll use inspections. We'll do whatever." And look, you can do that, right? I just think that's bad juju. Like it is karma. It's not great for our reputations as agent to be an agent that's doing that. So I think if we can we've got to get firm when that situation comes up and try and go get their number one. At least see if we're going to be in the running for number one. And then maybe talking to number two and being honest with number two. Here's the deal. I'm not going to know on their number one property until X. Can you give me till X? Can you hold off on making that decision if you know you're in the running for two, right? So you're having good conversation with both. And you're trying to get number two to say, "Hey, look, I think I can get you a strong offer, but it's a second choice. I need to hear on this one first. Can you hold off? Can you give me till Monday morning?" So hopefully you can play it, and sometimes you're just not going to be able to play it. But if agent number two knows that you're going to be coming in strong, hard to not wait, right? I mean, they got to tell their seller, "Hey, look, I think we should wait for this one. They're $10,000 better than this. It might not come in, but what does it hurt to wait till Monday morning for this other buyer?" So if we're having the right conversations, I think we can get that second listing agent to hold off a little bit. Is this triggering anything for anybody? Here's another scenario. Hey, this happened to me. Here's how I handled it. Nicole?
I was just gonna say for property A and B with the listing agent, I have a little bit different of a conversation with A. I'm very honest that this is their first option. So if we have any ability to win this offer, we would rather put the offer on this one. And then with property B, I usually try to spin it more of, we already have an offer on another property. They love this one as well, but with the market being the way it is, we don't want to withdraw that one if we have no option on this one, rather than saying that it's our second option, because I don't want to scare their sellers that they like something else out there more. So I have this similar conversation, but it's a little bit different.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat. That's what the call is for, right? Hey, maybe some of you guys like Nicole's approach a little bit better. And look, it's when I'm having that conversation, it's not like, look, they don't hate your property. It's A1 and A2. They love them both. It's just this one has this one extra benefit that they'd really like to get it. But man, if they don't, I promise you, we're coming strong on yours if you can hold off for us. Awesome. Well, hopefully there was some lessons learned here, guys. I appreciate all the input. We do have Crushing It. I always forget to mention we got Crushing It at 10 a.m. on Fridays. That call is also open to anybody. You don't have to be at Rovi to hop on there. If you're looking to up your skills on your conversations and your follow-up, there isn't a better training in the country than that Friday at 10 call. If you're a Rovi agent, we put out some information today that I am looking to do some one-on-ones with you guys to just see, what are some areas where we might be able to improve. So please schedule those. Those will be starting the week after the 4th of July week. So other than that, appreciate you guys. I plan on getting this rocking and rolling every day next week. I know it's a holiday week, but I'll be on. I'm loving these calls. I love the input. I love the energy that you guys are bringing. So bring your scenarios, write down little notes on the side, bring your the little quirks that are going on so we can all get a little bit better every single day. And share this call. Guys, if you know somebody at our brokerage, another brokerage that would benefit, please, let's get the word out. I think the more people that we have, the more unique scenarios that we can get. So would appreciate you guys sharing this out, commenting. My virtual assistant gets my video out every day. Share that, get some other people, and let's level this call up. All right?
Thank you.
Have yourself a great weekend.
Thanks, Steve.